Bear with me as I set this up. All right. Looks like I'm going to need my other device. So, I had to do the same thing yesterday. Had some technical difficulties. Appreciate you guys bearing with me. And what we're going to do is I'm going to put the number to the chat in the comment section. So if you want to call in, you can. So there's the number. I want to start tonight's show by saying that I had 2 super chats at the end of the last live Redskins Nightly News. And so what I want to do is I want to, let's get this out of the way. What I want to do is first take the time to thank Dominic Garland for his super chat. Thank you very much for the support. And I also wanted to take the time to thank the other super chat, and he was on a roll. I can't remember his name. And see, this is what happens when you have to start over 15,000 times. So now I got to go back and figure it out who it was. But he asked about Ryan Kerrigan and did I think he could get double-digit sacks this year. And I wanted to address that quickly before we get to our main story of the night, our lead story. And no, I don't think Ryan Kerrigan is getting double-digit sacks this year, but, you know, he's gotten off the slow starts before and then met a couple of bad left and right tackles that he's been able to take advantage of, get 2 or 3 sacks in games. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but at this point, do we even care if Kerrigan's able to get double-digit sacks? We know what he is as a football player. He's starting to slow down a bit, and I don't think he's an impactful player anymore. So while he's an Iron Man, he doesn't miss games. You know he's going to play. He's going to play through injuries. He's going to be out on the field. He's going to be tough against the run. We're paying Ryan Kerrigan to get after the quarterback, and I don't know if he's still capable of doing that at a high enough level to potentially re-up when his contract is done. He's been a great Redskin, but I don't know if the Redskins need to re-sign him when his deal is up. I think he's got 1 more year after this year on his contract, and I don't know what the Redskins are due in terms of what they are what they're on the hook for with Kerrigan. But after this season, that's one of those situations where you look at potentially exploring options with Kerrigan. Maybe, you know, and I don't know what the cap number is for him. That's something we would explore in the offseason, obviously. But if it's a situation where you could save yourself $7 or $8 million of cap space, man, I don't know. I would potentially think about moving on from him. You know, that's just my opinion. I don't know if the Redskins would do that or not, but I'm just telling you what I would do if I were the Redskins. I would ask him for, you know, to take a pay cut potentially, but I'm going down a slippery slope. The question was, could Ryan Kerrigan get double-digit sacks? I don't know if that's something that I think they would be capable. He was going to do this year. I just don't see it happening. But as I mentioned, all it takes is 2 or 3 really good games of 2.5 sacks. And next thing you know, you look up, he's got 9.5 sacks with 3 games left. You know, it won't take much. You know, I think he's already got a sack and a half or 2 this season. So, you know, two or 3 really good games where he's got a sack and a half, 2 sacks apiece. Next thing you know, you look up, he's got 9.5 sacks and he's knocking on the door of double digits yet again. So stranger things have happened, but I'm going to go out on the limb and say no, he's not going to hit double digit sacks this season. But in any event, the lead story tonight is the rumor about Trent Williams potentially being shipped off to Cleveland. Look, I don't think it's going to take place. Bruce Allen has made it his business to let everybody know that he has no intentions of trading Trent until the offseason, if it in fact happens. Again, I don't know what the purpose of that would be. Again, I understand the logic, and I've talked about this of knowing what you're getting versus the unknown. Who cares at this point? I think it's actually better to trade him now because you don't know what you're getting, and a team, it's going to be much easier for a team to part ways with a pick that they think they can turn into the 27th pick in the draft. It's a lot harder to get a team to part ways with the 7th pick in the draft for Trent Williams. All right. So if you trade it now and Trent Williams and the Browns turn out to be 6-10, and that's the 7th pick in the draft, well, you've done yourself a huge solid by moving him now. All right. If you wait and the Browns end up 6-10, and then you say, hey, you still want to do that deal for Trent? They're like, we're not giving you the 7th pick in the draft for Trent Williams. Are you crazy? So again, it's all about context. You got to move Trent now, to me, before this trade deadline, because his value won't be any greater than it is now. You've got teams that think they can win this season. They're desperate. And you got to strike while the iron is hot. The Browns think that they're offensive lineman away, health away from potentially turning this thing around. They've been in ball games. They could have beaten the Rams. They could have beaten the Seattle Seahawks. They've been in ball games this season, and they feel like a move here, a move there. You get one guy back from injury, another guy back from injury, and all of a sudden this thing can turn around for them. And you got to take advantage of that. You know, you saw the Rams in a desperate state and what they gave up for Jalen Ramsey. If you're the Redskins, you've got to take advantage of a desperate football team here. The Browns are probably desperate and feel like they're going to waste a season if they do not make a move to improve their offensive line. I said that at the beginning of the season, that their offensive line was going to be their undoing. Here's an opportunity to take full advantage of a team that potentially could be in the need for an offensive tackle. I don't know if the Redskins are going to do it. I don't trust Bruce Allen to do anything. And you know how I feel about this situation. Trent should have been moved a long time ago. The fact that he's still on this roster is an atrocity, but that's where we are as an organization. And so I have zero confidence that they're going to move Trent Williams and do the right thing here. I think they're simply going to stand pat, wait for him to show up, because I don't think if I'm Trent Williams, I don't show up at all this year. Why put your body on the line? Forget about the accrued season. It's not worth it to put your body on the line for 6 games for an organization you no longer want to play for. Sit out the entire year. Don't come back. Forget about the accrued season, because it makes it easier for you to be traded if you've got 2 years left on your deal versus just 1. And again, you're looking for new money anyway. So at the end of the day, if Trent's smart, he wouldn't come back at all. And that'll force the Redskins to have to make a move. Or you just say, hey, we'll revisit this in the offseason. I'm cool with sitting out the entire year. You won't see me at all. If I'm Trent, there's no way I'm showing up for 6 weeks, because the Redskins are going to try to use the hell out of this guy. Similar to Le'Veon Bell, his last year in Pittsburgh, where you knew the Steelers are going to try to get their money out of this guy because they know he's not going to be back after this season. And so they were going to run him into the ground. If you're Trent, don't put yourself out there. Don't risk getting an ACL or something stupid, tearing a pec muscle or something dumb happening that will bring your value down and make you almost an untradeable commodity. Sit out the entire season, and that will put you in a position to be traded in the offseason. If you're the Redskins, you trade him now. Get the value for him now, because to me, his value will never be greater than what it is now, because teams' backs are against the wall. You're getting close to that trade deadline. The clock is ticking on team seasons. The Browns are 2-4. They can't afford to drop to 2-5. They can't afford to lose ball games. They're in a division that's wide open. If they make the move now, they've got a chance to turn things around. The Ravens are sitting right there at 4-2. The Steelers are struggling at 2-4, right along with the Browns, and the Bengals stink. They've got a chance to win this division. You've got to strike while the iron is hot. If they're desperate enough to cough up a first rounder and potentially something else, again, you got to get what you can for Trent. And I think I've always said all along, I want a first rounder. Bruce has said he's not moving Trent for anything less than a first rounder. This is your opportunity potentially to get a first rounder, and one that might actually have some real value with it. I mean, this could actually turn out to be a top 15 pick here we're talking about. And who knows? The Redskins could easily be in a position where after the season is done, you're looking at 2 top 15 picks, 2 top 12 picks. in the 2020 draft, that would be ideal. That would fast track this team to potentially turning things around moving forward. So if you're the Redskins, you got to be smart about this. If the Browns are willing to cough up what it's going to take to potentially move Trent Williams, you've got to seriously consider that if you're the Redskins organization. And you got to move Trent and get what you can and wash your hands clean of this situation. I don't know if they're going to do that or not, but we'll see whatever happens. I think that, and I see someone in the comment section says the Redskins aren't getting a first round pick for Trent Williams. Well, then I wouldn't trade him. It's as simple as that. He to me, I would take the same stance as the Jaguars did with Jalen Ramsey. Either you give me what I want or I do nothing. Because again, the Redskins aren't in a position where they have a gun to their head. They don't have to do anything. Trent is contractually obligated to play for the Redskins if he's going to play football again in this league. And whether that's in 2019, 2020, 2021, it doesn't really matter. If he wants to play football again, it's going to be for the Redskins or no one else. And so if I'm a team out there and I want Trent Williams and the price is a first round pick, you either give it up or you don't get Trent Williams. It's really simple. And so I'm in the mindset that there's a first round pick to be had for Trent Williams. I feel that way. I've always felt that way. You're talking about a potential first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't know if he's going to be first ballot. I don't want to go too far. A potential Hall of Famer in Trent Williams that still got a ton left in the tank. And when he's healthy, he's one of the best left tackles in football. There's a first round pick out there. I know his age. You don't have to give me how old Trent Williams is. You don't have to tell me how many games he's missed the last 3 or 4 seasons. When the guy's healthy, he's one of the best in the game. And if you look at the Browns' offensive line, there's no one on that entire offensive line even remotely close to Trent Williams. They could use a guy like that, not only in their locker room, but on that offensive line. I think there's a first-round pick to be had for Trent Williams, but we will see. I had a piece of audio lined up for you guys that I wanted to play that, obviously I don't have my setup, so I'll have to save that for another show. But in any event, the floor is yours. If you would love to talk about this Redskins football team, I've left the number in the comment section. Feel free to use it. Call in, and we can have that dialogue. Or if you want to have your comment read, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. But again, this setup, this live stream is for the betterment of you guys, to allow you to voice your opinion on this football team, whether it's the Trent situation, the upcoming game, the state of this franchise, Bruce Allen, whatever you want to talk about. Do you think that this first game and this win that Bill Callahan was able to get is sustainable? Whatever you want to talk about, I'm here for it. But again, call in, numbers in the comment section. I'll type it in there again, so you guys can have that. I got a call, gonna go ahead and take it. You're on live with your man Louie T. Who am I speaking with? Turn your monitor down. Hey, turn your monitor down. It's loud in the background.
Okay, sure. Hey, buddy, I'm up here in Speed Chicken Country. I got to deal with these Seahawks fans all the time, but I try to hang on with my skin. But hopefully, Bruce Allen comes to his senses and makes the trade for Trent Williams. I would hate to lose the guy, but if he doesn't want to be here, we might as well trade him and get some type of assets back from him. My question for you is, I think we're kind of stuck with Bruce. I really don't see Dan Snyder firing him. I think he has some photocopies of some videos of Snyder doing something inappropriate. That's why he's still around. But on the other hand, what type of coach do you think we're going to be able to get? I keep hearing a lot of people say nobody wants to come to this dysfunctional team. But however, when the price is right and you do a lot of sweet talk behind doors, I'm pretty sure you can get almost not anybody you want, but a lot of people will probably raise their hands and try to take the head coaching job for the Skins. So appreciate your show, man, and I'll take your comments off there.
Hey, man, appreciate you, man, no doubt. So an intriguing question, and it's one that you're going to hear boundied about on all the programs. I heard Terry Bradshaw talking about how Josh Daniels is going to be a hot commodity that the Redskins go after. If you think that first of all, and you're going to hear a lot of rumors, and let me throw out this warning right now. Believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man, Louie T. Okay? So I said all of that to say this. I've already heard names like Josh McDaniels. I've heard Mike Tomlin. I've heard Mike McCarthy. I've heard Lincoln Riley of Oklahoma. Ryan Day of Ohio State. The list goes on and on and on. You're going to hear all of these names thrown around because the Redskins were the first team to move on from their head coach. So they've got at least 3 to 4 more months of the Redskins going through this season and them trying to guess as to who will be the next Redskins head coach. Bottom line is, as I've said this before and I'll continue to reiterate this, it's going to be tough for the Redskins to lure someone here, but keep this in mind. I may say this all the time and I may continue to tell you that it's going to be hard for the Redskins to get a coach, but guess what? It's still one of 32 jobs. It's a prestigious position to be in because there are only 32 of them. It's not like there are 2,000 of these positions available. There's only one availability here in Washington, but there are 32 head coaches in this league. It's hard to get one of these jobs. And so you're going to get someone that's desperate enough to take this job, someone that wants the opportunity. And I've said this before. There are guys out there with an ego that think to themselves, if I can turn around what is a dysfunctional organization but was once a proud organization and restore that heritage back to that organization, I will be looked at as a king. All right? I will be worshipped and I will have statues built because of what I've done. And so someone will think that way and maybe want to come to Washington. I'm just telling you this much. Whomever they get, and the report was that, and I think that there's no way that Mike Tomlin's coming. I've already said that, and Adam Schefter has refuted the report that was out there floating around by Jason LaCamfora that Daniel Snyder was going to go after Mike Tomlin hard. First and foremost, as I mentioned, he's under contract with the Steelers. He's not getting fired, and the Steelers aren't looking to move Mike Tomlin unless the Redskins are going to do something stupid. And when I say stupid, I mean you're talking about possibly 3 first-round picks, something crazy like that. There's no way the Steelers are moving on from Mike Tomlin. They would have to trade for him. We haven't seen a coach traded for since John Gruden was traded to the Buccaneers from the Raiders. All right, it's just not happening. It doesn't happen in this league, and it's going to take an awful lot to pull it off. And I don't think Dan Snyder's that damn stupid. And we know Dan can be impulsive. I don't think he's that damn stupid to give away 3 first-round picks. It's counterintuitive. It goes against everything the Redskins have been doing of late and what they're trying to build. I just don't see the Tomlin thing happening. But when I look at what the Redskins are trying to do, first of all, don't count out Bill Callahan, all right? I don't want him to be our head coach. Let me reiterate that. Now, if we somehow win, if we finish up the season 8-3, and that would get us to 8-8, or we finish up the season 7-4, and we finish up the season at 7-9, then you got to give him some credit, depending on who those wins are and how they come and that sort of thing. Then you would have to give him some credit and potentially give him an opportunity to be the head coach of this football team. But at the end of the day, I'm still on the Kevin O'Connell train, but if the Redskins go out in the market and they're looking for someone, I feel like you've got to marry Dwayne Haskins. First of all, that coach has got to believe in Dwayne Haskins. And secondly, I think you got to marry Dwayne Haskins with a young, innovative, offensive-minded head coach. If you go defensive-minded coach, I think you could, we've seen it with Jason Campbell. We've seen it with other guys where they've had multiple coordinators and guys in their ear. We saw it with Robert Griffin III. You just want one guy to build with the young quarterback. And again, everyone's looking for the New Orleans Saints model, the Drew Brees and Sean Payton marriage made in heaven, where you've got a coach and a quarterback married and tied at the hip for years and years to come. That's what you're looking for. In New England, we always talk about Belichick and how he's a defensive guy, but look at what they've done at the coordinator position. They've had coordinators there that really have been there throughout the entire time. You had Charlie Weiss early on, and then you pretty much have had Josh McDaniels the rest of the way. I mean, it hasn't been a lot of turnover there in New England. All right, they went through defensive coordinator after defensive coordinator. They've cycled through those guys like fresh underwear. But the offensive coordinator hasn't really changed in New England. Okay, and that's what you want. You want continuity. If you get a defensive-minded coach and an offensive coordinator comes in here, let's say Kevin O'Connell stays on board as offensive coordinator, but you get a defensive-minded coach, and Kevin O'Connell knocks it out of the park with Haskins, and Haskins has an excellent first year at quarterback. Don't you think someone's going to come knocking, looking for Kevin O'Connell to become their new head coach? And then we would have let another young, potentially gifted offensive mind out of the building. I just don't see the Redskins wanting to do that. But then again, we did it once, we did it twice, we did it 3 times. Who's to say that we don't do it again and allow another offensive mind to leave this building and become successful elsewhere? So as a matter of fact, we got one of the offensive guys that I thought was a genius that was here, and Kyle Shanahan coming to town this week, and he's going to look to lay it on the Redskins thick this Sunday. So I don't know what the Redskins are going to be able to do. We'll see what happens, but I think it's got to be an offensive-minded guy. That's what I think. But got a call. Going to go ahead and take it. You're on. Oh, just missed that call. Call back in if you're out there. But I think it's going to be an offensive-minded guy. I know some of you would like to see a defensive-minded guy come in here with all the defensive talent that we have. You would like to see a defensive guy come in here and get this defense where it needs to be. But you just got to find an elite defensive coordinator. That's what you got to go find. That's what you got to go look for. And I think you really need to find an offensive-minded head coach. You're on with your man, Louie T. Who am I speaking with?
This is AJ. Called last week.
What's going on, AJ?
All I say is congratulations. You got the first win of the season.
We got the first win of the season. It wasn't pretty, but it was gritty. It was a dub. I don't know how many more of those we're going to get, but we got one, and we'll see what happens.
I think mainly because Miami just decided to go for 2 instead of kicking the extra point, which I don't get why teams decide to do that. Just kick the extra point and send it to overtime.
You know what, though? It's funny because I've heard that narrative that the Dolphins wanted to lose, they went for 2, that sort of thing. I don't really subscribe to that. This is the thing. I've watched this NFL season. It's been a unique year in the sense that teams aren't kicking the extra point in that situation this year. I watched the Jacksonville Jaguars lose on the road to the Texans in a same exact spot where they went for 2, they didn't get it, they lost by 1. We saw the Baltimore Ravens going for 2 a bunch of times. We saw another team go for 2 in that same spot late in the ball game and lose. Denver went for 2, they got it, but then they ended up giving up the game-winning field goal. So we've seen a number of teams do that exact thing in that situation. That's the new trend in the league. You got a chance to win the game in regulation, you just go ahead and take that opportunity. I thought that the play call might have been a little sketchy, but if you're talking about them going for 2, I don't think that's the notion of they went for 2 to lose. I don't think that was the case.
Yeah, who do you think is going to be next head coach for the Redskins?
It's hard to really say because you got to see what jobs are available. I think the Atlanta Falcons job is going to be available. I can't see any way in which Dan Quinn is back next season. That's a much better job than the Redskins job. You're going to see other coaches potentially get fired. Who knows what happens in New York with Pat Shurmur, but if that job comes available, that's probably a more attractive job than this one here. At least 4 or 5 more coaches are going to get fired and jobs are going to come available. And like I said, if there are 6 jobs available, the Redskins job will go down to the 6th spot. And that's why it's tough to know what the Redskins are going to be able to do. If there are only 3 spots available, 3 jobs available, then and there are coaches that are antsy, ready to get their opportunity, then the Redskins may have a chance to land a guy that they might not have had a chance to land. So it's all in what happens, how many coaches get fired, who is willing to step forward and take the job. It's interesting.
Losing their job this year. That's the Redskins. It could be Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
I could see Jacksonville.
Yep.
They're going to move on.
You can see the Titans move on from Mike Vrabel. They already benched Marcus Mariota. I mean, there's so many teams. It's hard to really say.
Yeah, Pat Shermer.
Yep. In New York. So I mean, it's hard to say right now because we don't know what's going to happen with other teams. And I think that's really the Redskins are really dependent on how these other teams go about their coaching situation as well.
Yeah. Not to mention, see how Callahan turns out.
Yep. I mean, I think that's the first thing you got to do is you got to see.
Yeah, that's what Cleveland did with Freddie Kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
They really like this play as an offensive coordinator last year. They promoted him to head coach.
Right, exactly. And I remember, if you remember, I said that on the Redskins Nightly News a week and a half ago that the Redskins are looking to follow that Cleveland Browns model where you don't promote the offensive coordinator to head coach, which is what we all thought was going to happen. You promote a guy with head coaching experience. The Browns did it with Greg Williams. He had head coaching experience. The Redskins did it with Bill Callahan, head coaching experience. And you allow the offensive coordinator to build a rapport with your young quarterback, and you see if he is the play caller that you think he is. If he himself, then potentially you promote him to head coach. You marry him with Dwayne Haskins, and you move forward like that.
Yeah, that's just enough. Because they got to look at a coach that likes guys like Dwayne Haskins.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The young guys that you have on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the benefit the Redskins a lot. Is that they're going to rebuild. Now is the time to do it because of guys like Dwayne Haskins.
Yep. I agree. Hey, AJ, man, I appreciate you chiming in, man. Have a good one. Thanks for calling in.
You too.
Yep. So, again, the way I look at it is the Redskins are going to be at the bottom of the totem pole. Just how far down are they going to be? Do only 3 coaches lose their job? I think the last 3 or 4 off seasons, the average has been around 6. So you got to assume that the Redskins, again, going to move down that list of teams, and you just see where they land, and you see who's available and who is actually considering taking this job. You're on live with your man Louie T. Who am I speaking with?
It's Gio. What's up?
What's going on, Gio?
Not much, man. I just want to call in. I got some scenarios and stuff to go at you. The
Okay.
first, I want to talk about Dunbar being ranked a top 3 corner right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that boy, Charles Dion Hamilton, man, PFF gave him a 92.5 grade for week 6, man.
Mm-hmm. And you know I'm not a PFF guy, so I don't. That doesn't hold much weight with me. But I mean, if you watch the game, how could you not be impressed with what you saw from Sean Dion? The question wasn't was he capable of this. The question was where the hell has he been the first 5 weeks of the season? Like this was a guy that we thought was going to start. And that's the thing that drove us nuts. Is like we kept. It kind of went silent because of the whole Dwayne Haskins situation and how bad the defense was. It got overshadowed, but. One of the early questions I had, and it kind of got swept under the rug, was, what the hell is Sean Dion Hamilton? Is he hurt or something? And then I would see pan shots of the sideline, and I would see 51 standing over there chilling, and I'm like, why is he getting any run? You know what I mean? And I like Cole Holcomb as much as the next man, but goddamn, I mean, Sean Dion deserves an opportunity to show what he can do. So I was amazed that he hadn't been getting any reps, any snaps. And then you see him get on the field, and look what he was able to do. I didn't understand why he hadn't been playing before.
Neither do I, man. But here's my scenarios, man, with Trent, man. Would you take a second in Njoku?
I'm not a huge Robert Njoku fan, David Njoku fan. Here's why. He's a guy that is very talented. He's raw, got a lot of ability, but he's also been injured. And he hasn't really lived up to the hype that we thought he was going to be coming out of the U. I mean, this is a guy that all the athleticism in the world, can jump out of the gym, has speed, all of the raw abilities, but he's also got issues catching the football. He's not an elite run blocker, and to me, he's had issues staying healthy. He's not even healthy right now as we speak. I think he hasn't played since the Jet game, and I think the Jets game was week 2 when he got toppled over and landed on his neck. So. And I think he ended up hurting his hand. He had a concussion or hurt his neck. All of that all in one game. So I'm good on Njoku. I would like to go out and draft my own tight end, but I would love to have your pick. You know, I would love to take your first round pick. But if you said the best you can do is 2 twos, this is the thing. I don't want your second round pick. Why? Because the Redskins don't know what to do with second round picks. We've been so bad in the second round. They gave away the second round pick last year. It was like, you know what? We don't know how to use them. Here, you take the second round. Let me get this first round pick. They gave away the second and the second for next year because they don't know what to do with second round picks. Our second round picks you go all the way back probably the last 6 or 7 years. Our second round picks have been routinely trash. So I don't even know if I want your second round pick because I'm scared we're not going to know what to do with that second round pick.
Yeah, man. Another question I got for you is like, how do you feel about sending someone like Josh Norman to like the Texans to need a quarterback for like a fifth or sixth?
Look again, if Josh has any value and you feel like you can get, because I'll take a fifth or a sixth for him right now. To hell.
I'll take a fucking seventh.
I would take a late round draft pick for Josh Norman at this point. He has lost all confidence, and maybe a change of scenery is what he needs because he's lacking confidence. As I said that yesterday, I'm doubling down on that. I don't think the man is absolutely trash. I just think mentally he has no confidence right now. He's playing like a guy that's a shell of himself. And if he gets in a new environment where they reinstill confidence in him and they give him coverages that fit his skill set, you may see Josh Norman be able to play better football. I don't think he'll ever be the corner he was in Carolina. I think that ship has sailed. But I think he can still be a serviceable corner in this league. I just don't know if it'll be in a Redskins uniform. And so if you can get a fifth or sixth, I don't know if I'll take a seventh for him, even though you're probably not going to get anything for him if you just let him walk in the offseason. I don't know if I'll take a seventh, but if you told me I can get a fifth or a sixth for him, I'd definitely do that. And if a team wanted him, which that's the thing, I don't think anybody wants Josh Norman. So we'll see what happens.
Being an elite trash can out there, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've seen some rumors about AP possibly going to the Lions. So how would you feel about packaging AP and a guy like Ryan Kerrigan for like a second, third, and like sixth?
I would do that in a heartbeat. Here's the thing. One, you got to make sure Darius Geis is healthy before you do something like that. And even if he's healthy, do you think he's going to stay healthy? Because Chris Thompson is hurt. He's got turf toe. I mean, the Redskins, right now, I heard that they were going to try out Josh Ferguson. Who the hell is Josh Ferguson? I have no idea. Okay? So I don't know if Bryce Love is coming back this year at all, if they're just going to wait till next year on Bryce Love. But you got Wendell Smallwood, but honestly speaking, do we want to see the Wendell Smallwood show? I don't. You know what I mean? So if Geis isn't healthy, it's hard to make that move because you don't really have a feature back. Now, I'm all for trading Kerrigan, Adrian Peterson, because they're not a part of the future. You know, those guys they're a part of the present day Skins, but if you're talking about building for the future, they're not going to be here, and if you can get something for them, that would be great. But I can't see a team giving away a second, a third, and a sixth for Kerrigan, Adrian Peterson, and what else did you say? Did you say anybody else, or was that it?
No, this Kerrigan, Adrian Peterson, man.
I just don't think.
The Lions need that halfback and outside backer, and Kerrigan, AP are both serviceable people who still produce.
So did I miss something on?
Give up a second and third because I know they have a feeling that they're so close to making them damn playoffs, man.
Did something happen to Kerryon Johnson? Did I miss something?
No, they need running backs, man. I seen it on I was looking at the not pro football, but like a lot of these trade rumors, and they had like AP on the trade block, and the Lions are the team that's most interested and stuff like that.
Again, if I don't understand why the Lions would be in the market for a feature back and you got Kerryon Johnson. So, because again, Adrian Peterson isn't the guy you want to trade for if you're not going to give him carries. He's not looking to be somebody's backup running back. He's not looking to be a 10, 11 carry, 7 carry a game guy. We saw him in that role in Arizona and in New Orleans, and he wasn't happy. So Do you want to trade for a guy that's 34 years old that thinks he's still 24 and you got a feature back? I just don't see. And again, this man was available in the offseason. Like, you could have had Adrian Peterson. I can't see a team giving up a second and a third for Kerrigan and Adrian Peterson, especially when Kerrigan is past his prime and Adrian Peterson is a guy that you could have had for probably $3-4 million in the offseason. He was available. So I don't see that happening. Again, and you're giving the Redskins organization way too much credit. Do you really think they're looking that far into the future? This is a team run by a guy that thinks that we're close, even though we're 1-5.
No, for the Trent Williams situation, man, this is the time to trade him. Either this week or next week, man.
Yeah.
Because the Browns are desperate, man.
Yep.
They're very desperate, and even a team like the Patriots, I'm pretty sure there's a first round draft pick out there, at least the first. It might be a little more than the first.
I would not want to do business with the Patriots just because because I know it's a back end of the first round pick. It's potentially the 32nd pick in the draft if they win the Super Bowl again. Whereas the Browns, I would want to do business with a team like the Browns who think they've got a chance, but they could easily be 6-10 this year. They could be 7-9, and that could be the 13th pick or the 15th pick in the draft. Like, I don't want to be resigned to getting the 30th pick in the draft. Like,
I know where you're coming from, Lou. I know where you're coming from. You want to get the most value out of him, but we don't have much. We don't have a lot of leverage here.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, that's the thing.
We have no leverage.
Yeah, we do. See, that's the thing. I think that's where people are wrong in saying that we don't have any leverage. Because this is the thing. Either Trent plays for us or he plays for nobody. And whether he comes back and gets an accrued season or not, bottom line is he's still on contract for another year after this year. So if you're the Redskins and you want to trade him, you can trade him in the offseason. You can trade him now. Look, personally, I would trade him now. But again, whether you wait to trade him or you trade him before the trade deadline, whatever the case may be, the leverage is with the Redskins because he is a Redskin until 2021. And until then, the Redskins have every option to move him because wherever he goes, he's probably going to get new money regardless. So the 1 year, the 2 year thing, while it makes a difference because if a team is like, nah, we're not trying to give you new money yet, then 2 years is more attractive than one. But if he's going to get to somewhere and they're like, hey, we're going to tear up this 2 year deal and add on a year or two and make it a 4 year deal with 2 year extension that's worth an X amount of $1 million and here's some upfront money, then that's great. But the bottom line is we have the leverage because we can trade him, we can not trade him, but either way, he's not going anywhere. It's not like this is the last year of his deal, and if we don't trade him, he's a free agent in the offseason. Then we wouldn't have any leverage, and we would need to move him as soon as possible. But because he has 2 years left, even if he comes back, gets the accrued season, he's still a Redskin after that for a whole nother year, and the Redskins have every opportunity to trade him in the offseason. So I would trade him now. I'm with you. I think the best time to trade him would be either this week or next, before the trading deadline. But
in your opinion, what do you think the Redskins are going to do? You think they're going to trade him now or at the end of the season when they know what they're going to get, or you think they're just going to hold on to him?
I think they're going to trade him in the offseason. Allen is so stubborn.
They're going to know what they want to get.
They want to know, and that's what he said. He basically said, I don't want to trade. If you wanted to trade, and this is the thing. I've heard rumors that Trent told them how he felt in February.
Yeah,
They knew. So the whole narrative of you can't ask for a trade in training camp. He didn't ask for a trade in training camp. If they knew how this man felt back in February, and you just thought to yourself, oh, that's just Trent talking. He's a little mad. He's letting off a little bit of steam. Once the season gets here, he'll show up. If that was your mindset, then you deserve to be in the spot that you're in right now. And you can't blame him for coming at you late wanting to trade. You knew that he wanted out. And you thought that he was going to show up once the checks started coming in. And so I think that they're going to wait till the offseason because they want to know what they're getting. I'd rather roll the dice. I'd rather say, hey, because again, if you're going to get a first round pick, it's with the team thinking that they're going to turn that first round pick into the 30th pick in the draft. No one is going to give up the 11th pick in the draft for Trent Williams. No one's giving up the 17th pick in the draft for Trent Williams. Now, if they think to themselves, we got a chance to be good right now, and that first round pick will be the 29th pick in the draft, they're willing to do that. You got to be willing to roll the dice and say, hey, you can have Trent, but we think you're going to sink, and you're going to end up giving us the 13th pick in the draft. You got to be able to roll the dice and look, if it turns out to be the 28th pick, so be it. You still got a first round pick, but you got to be willing to roll it. You're not rolling the dice with New England. That's going to be the 20th, 29th, 30th, 31st, or 32nd pick. You're not rolling the dice. They're going to be in the AFC Championship game. So that pick is no better than 29th. So you're not rolling the dice with New England. You know you're getting a pick that's at the back end of the first round. At least with a team like the Browns, you roll the dice. Hey, man, it might come up nice. You kiss the dice, roll it, and hope it comes up nice. And I think you might end up with a top 15 pick.
Right. All right. So this is my last two things before I get off.
Yep.
And this is not a question, but this is how I feel about Mike Tomlin, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see us getting him. I don't see us trading anything unless it's ridiculous, which I hope we don't do.
Right.
And then about the linebacker position, man, how do you feel about mentioning someone like John Bostic, even though he was everywhere last week, for someone like Sean Deion Hamilton and having him and Holcomb? Because Holcomb is a promising rookie. He was ranked 14th. He's having a good season with us. He's a tackle machine. He's not the best in pass coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel about us starting Sean Deion Hamilton over John Bostic?
This is the thing. I would have done that already. See, again, as a fan, we're removed from the situation. So it's easy for us to say, hey, this is what I would do, because we're not in there with those guys in the locker room putting all this their sweat, blood, and tears into this, trying to win football games. You have to do right by the guys in that locker room, and John Bostic gives you the best chance because he knows the defense, he's a veteran, and he understands what's going on around him. You put a bunch of young guys in there and you're liable to have mistakes happen. We saw the Giants game with Cole Holcomb. You put him out there, you give him a green dot, you're going to have more lapses where he's out of position and guys are running wide open in the flats and things of that nature. And look, those are the growing pains you're going to have to go through when you got young guys playing. But I would be willing to go through those growing pains because we're not a good football team anyway. But again, you can't tell them that, because they think they've got a chance to win, and they've got a bunch of guys in there that still think they can win. You can't tell them that, hey, we're going to trade potentially winning games to get guys experience. They're not trying to hear that in the locker room. And it's easy for us to say, well, it doesn't matter. You're cutting them the checks. You tell them what's going to happen, and they just got to conform. You still want to build a culture in the locker room that suggests that you want to win. You know, and that's why I could never get on board with tanking, because tanking there's a dangerous line you walk when you start losing ball games, and it seeps into your locker room, and there's a culture that starts to become ingrained in your players where they think losing is okay, and that's a way of life. You never want your players to feel like losing is okay. And so while we may not be very good and you want to see all these young guys play, you still have to keep that in the back of your mind. But my thing is, at the quarterback position, and this is the only position I'm willing to take a different stance with, is that you're only going to be as good as your quarterback. And if you think Haskins is the future, you got to get him ready to start playing now, because, yeah, you may stink this year. You already are done. So why not put yourself in a position to start fresh next year with a guy that got experience and is ready to go next year, and you think, all right, here we go. The guy's got experience. He got to see NFL defenses. He got to adjust to the speed of the game. He's ready to rock and roll now in 2020. Let's go win us some ball games. Instead of starting over brand new next year, because let me throw this out. I'm glad I got you on the phone. I'm going to throw this out here, because I was gonna talk about this on the program when I had all my graphics, but now that we're here and we're here, let's just talk about it now. All right, so I went back and watched the game, and then I watched some post-game stuff, and I saw something really interesting. I saw Daniel Snyder, KOC, and Alex Smith all on the field talking prior to the game. Alex Smith looked in great shape. He had no limp, and he's doing everything in his power to try to get back on the field.
I heard that he was throwing the ball, actually.
I'm pretty well. Nothing's wrong with his arm, so I wouldn't be shocked if he's throwing the football. And I'm gonna tell you right now, in the Redskins, I didn't realize this, but even next year, if you try to cut because I said the first thing I would do is get rid of Bruce Allen, but after that, the next thing I would do was remove Alex Smith from the equation. I don't even want him being an option. If the Redskins cut him, you're on the hook for $30 million worth of dead cap. He's not going anywhere next year. Is essentially what I'm telling you. Alex Smith is going to be on this roster, and if he's on the roster and he's healthy, is there a chance that Alex Smith, not Dwayne Haskins, is your starter in 2020? I mean, that's a realistic possibility.
Well,
Think about it.
The philosophy that they're going this year, giving us the best chance to win. You got a young quarterback that's unproven. You got Alex Smith, who we know is a game manager, and we did have a winning record with him. Was it 6-2 or something like that?
6-3.
5-2.
6-3.
And if they want to go that route, which they actually might, I say there's a 50-50 chance. You flip a coin with this organization, man. Honestly.
Yep. I'm not throwing that out, man. I'm not going to rule that out. That if Alex Smith comes back healthy next year, I'm not sure if he, especially if somehow we end up going, 7-4 down the stretch with Bill Callahan and he gets this job, and he's a game manager type of guy.
Likes to run the ball.
Loves to run the football. Wants a quarterback that's going to be highly efficient. Alex Smith would be the perfect quarterback for Bill Callahan, man. I would not rule that out.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, man. We talked about this, and he thinks the offense is going to be better with Callahan. I don't see it happening. He wants to run the ball. When they stack 8 in the box, mind you, Peterson did have a good game, but that was against the Dolphins.
Right.
Like, come on.
Yep.
When they put 8 in the box, and then we'll force the pass, Keenum's mediocre and average at best.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to take you nowhere.
Yeah.
Might take you to the opposite end zone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A couple pick sixes here and there. But
Right. And we're going to find out. This is going to be a great test because the 49ers are coming up, and they're going to stop the run.
They're going to kill our offense.
They're going to stop the run. Yep. This could really get ugly this week, man. If they're not careful, if they don't establish the run early and take some of the pressure off of Case Keenum, and we end up in 3rd and longs because we tried to run it on 1st down and run it on 2nd down, and we end up in 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 11, they're going to tee off on Case Keenum, and it's going to look like the Bears game. That's what it's going to look like.
This is what I think they're going to do. They're going to blitz the hell out of us. And then they're going to put 2 on Terry McLaurin and try getting him out of the game. And make Keenum rely on the other receivers, which he hasn't built any good, chemistry with yet in game. Because Trey Quinn, man, he be running wide open. Keenum be overthrowing him, underthrowing him. It's not even looking at him half the time. You don't even go through all the progressions. And part of that is because he don't have enough time because the offensive line's trash. But I don't know. They're gonna take Terry out the game. They're gonna blitz hard.
I think that is a definite possibility, man. And it's going to be interesting. We're going to talk more about that 49ers game later on in the week as the week progresses. But, hey, Gio, man, fun chopping it up with you, bro. Appreciate you calling in, man. Have a good one.
I just want to say that I called back yesterday, man. And this is one of the best things I've done. And I want to thank you for that, man. It's pretty fun. You're a good guy. I love what you're doing. Keep it up. And for all the other viewers out there, man, call in. It is so fun to talk, man. Rather than sitting there in the comment section. All right, Lou, have a good time, man.
Hey, man, appreciate you, man. Have a good one. So, I mean, there's so many different things to discuss with this football team, man. It's amazing. Wahoo Brad 24 says, at this point, I feel we'd be lucky to get a 3rd rounder for Trent, maybe a 2nd. We've had several opportunities to get a 1st for him and did nothing. Thanks, Bruce. I feel where you're coming from. I still am in the camp and in the mindset and belief that there's a 1st rounder out there to be had for Trent. You might be right. Those opportunities may have come and gone, and we may have allowed those to pass us by, and now we may be in a position where a 2nd or a 3rd is the best we can get for Trent. We'll see what happens. You're on live with your man, Louie T. Who am I speaking with?
Speaking with Dave.
What's going on, Dave?
Ain't nothing much, man. Living that Redskins life.
I know it's a tough life, man. It's a tough existence, bro. But we here with you.
Yeah. Hey, so I got a question for you. So we all know what our main issue is. All revolves around Bruce Allen and his front office.
Yep.
So what I want to know is what you think about the possibilities of whatever our new coach is, them even having a chance with competing with the front office and the dysfunction how are we going to do that with what we got in our front office right now, regardless to the coach?
I mean, that's to me, if you're talking Redskins, that is the biggest question. That's the enigma that is the Washington Redskins. That is literally the essence of what the problem is. It doesn't really matter, and that's what everyone's pretty much been saying. I've read at least 4 or 5 articles that have pretty much echoed what you just said, which is, why do you think anything's going to change? It doesn't matter. You know, Scott Van Pelt had the one big thing rant, and I tweeted out and said that was 4 minutes and 10 seconds, summing up the Redskins over the last 20 years. And he pretty much said, it's the front office. It's like you're running in a hamster wheel. You're running in place because it doesn't matter. We've had the innovative, head coach. We've had the tough guy head coach in Marty Schottenheimer. You had the ball coach, the college football new guy in Steve Spurrier. You had the respected Super Bowl winning coach in Mike Shanahan. You had the beloved Joe Gibbs, Super Bowl winning coach, come back. He didn't get it done here. You had Jim Zorn, who is supposed to be, young, innovative mind, not young necessarily, but innovative. That didn't work. And then you've had Jay Gruden, who was supposed to be the young, innovative mind coming out of Cleveland as an offensive coordinator. And none of them have worked. 20 years of ineptitude, 20 years of different coaches, different types of coaches. None of them have worked. 10 years of Bruce, and it's all failed in Washington. And so what makes us think that the next guy is going to be the guy to turn things around? I mean, that's the problem. Is if you're a coach coming in here, you've got to worry about not only doing your job and doing it to the best of your abilities, but you've got to worry about Bruce undermining you. You've got to worry about Bruce getting in the owner's ear. You got to worry about Bruce getting upset and maybe even being jealous and in his feelings because you're getting a lot of the shine. Because again, keep in mind, when guys come in here and they start to have success and they start to get all of the adulation for the success, Bruce gets upset. And we saw what he did. And again, I don't think that anything was done great here by Scott McCloughan. I don't think he did anything great here. But he was getting a lot of praise for some of the draft picks that he had made, and we were feeling really good because we thought we had a real football guy in charge, and Bruce didn't like that. Bruce didn't like the fact that he was getting a lot of.
The main thing about Scott McCloughan that I actually like, regardless of if all his draft picks didn't pan out, you could tell that the guy had a plan.
Yeah.
Like, the guy had a vision for his organization. He was picking tough guys that's going to smack you in the mouth. And if they don't pan out, it's not because they're not tough.
Right.
So at least, he had a plan. It seems like now we just pick the people who just seem like, they have the biggest buzz and should be the top draft picks. But everyone knows that it doesn't pan out like that. That's not realistic. That's not real life.
Yeah. And so that's where the problem lies, is that you could go out there and try to find whomever you want, but you still got to deal with Bruce Allen and Dan Snyder in the front office. And until that changes, nothing to change. The more things change, really, the more things stay the same. Now, I will say this. That's why I feel like the best man probably for the job is somebody already in the organization, because they already know what they have to deal with. You get somebody from the outside coming in and they think they're getting a fair shake, and they get in this building, they may be overwhelmed by all of the dysfunction that is existing in Washington. You get a guy like KOC who's been in the building, that knows what's going on. It's not going to faze him to see the things that are going on around him, because he's been in this organization for a number of years. He's seen guys come, he's seen guys go. He knows what's going on in this organization, and so it's not going to faze him as much. You get a guy from the outside that's not used to this dysfunction, and he may not be able to handle it, and he may be gobbled up by what goes on behind closed doors at Redskins Park. So, yeah, that's how I feel about that situation.
Hey, I got another question for you, Lou.
Sure.
What are the biggest holes you see on our current roster that could, be a quick turnaround. And next year, maybe, we're not big picture going to change anything with our current front office, but, we could win a couple more games and at least be more competitive if we fix some of the issues that we have. Like, obviously, Josh Norman got to go, and there's certain players that have to go. Who are those key players that you think that we can replace with either draft picks or getting in free agency and getting some, low-budget guys or some guys we can add onto the roster to make it a more competitive team with what we got dealing with our front office as is?
So I think this goes back to a question I asked of you guys a while back, which was what were the biggest needs on this team? And I think I saw a lot of people making lists, and I'm right there with them. When you look at this team, I don't think most of the needs are going to change. We pretty much know what we need at this point. Obviously, some guys could emerge, and we may have some hidden gems on the roster if some of these young guys get an opportunity to play, and we see what we have. But I mean, you're going to need a left tackle. And
Right,
look,
right.
we've gotten some good play out of Donald Penn, but Donald Penn is like 36, 37 years old. He's not a part of the future. We're going to need an upgrade at left tackle. I told you I love Dunny. He's going to need a running mate though. I don't know if that guy's Fab Moreau. I think Jimmy's probably more suited for the nickel, and so we'll see what happens. But I think you could argue I don't think it's even really up for debate. We need another corner. At least one more corner that we feel like can start. You look at the linebacker position. I like the linebackers. I don't love the linebackers, and I don't want to be relying on Reuben Foster. He's never been able to stay healthy, and we don't know what he's going to do off the field either. So I hate relying on guys that have been unreliable. So linebacker is definitely a position you still need to take a look at. Tight end, to me, is another one of those positions that you have to address. It's not up for debate. I actually like Jeremy Sprinkle a lot. But
Yeah, I do.
I think you still need to add another guy. And I wouldn't have a problem adding a young guy early in the draft at the tight end position. You look at, I think you need another pass rusher. I feel like, I think we're going to see Montez Sweat develop and get better. He's done some really good things against the run. I think he's getting more and more comfortable. The more he learns and the faster he picks up everything, the less he thinks and the more he just goes out and plays, then he'll be able to play faster and then you'll start to see him play better. But I think we need an elite pass rusher still. That's still my biggest need defensively, is because if you get those big horses in the middle, collapse in the pocket, winning one-on-one matchups, and then you get a guy coming off the edge that's forcing him to step up into those guys in the middle, Deron Payne and Matt Ioannidis and Jonathan Allen, all you need is one dude that's a havoc-wreaking, fear-inducing pass rusher to force a quarterback to have to step up sooner than he wants to. It would really change the dynamics of this defense drastically. So I think you need an edge rusher. I think you could use another backer. You need another corner. I think you need a tight end. You need a left tackle. And then I think you go from there. And so I look at this football team, and those are the positions that I would be keying in on, and then you kind of build from there. And obviously you still got to figure out what you have. There are a number of young guys on this roster that need opportunities, and maybe you got a couple of guys that can fill those voids, and you'll see what happens. But and I think you need another receiver too. I don't want to leave that position out because as much as I like Paul Richardson and Trey Quinn and Cam Sims and all these guys, Kelvin Harmon is another guy that I like, and I think he's going to continue to develop. And we may actually have enough stuff at receiver. It wouldn't hurt to add another guy to the mix and see what he has. You know what I mean? So that's another position. I wouldn't necessarily be hell-bent on adding a guy. I know a lot of people have talked about these Alabama wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, all of these guys. I don't know if I would necessarily add one of those guys early in the draft. I think I wouldn't be opposed to adding, a receiver in the second or the third or the fourth round. We found Terry in the third round. You know what I mean? You can find quality receivers if you are scouting well. So you don't necessarily have to draft, as we know, because we drafted a first round bust, okay? And Josh Doxson, you don't have to actually draft a first round receiver to get quality play out of a receiver. So,
I just don't think we're in a position to draft a wide receiver in the first round. Like, that's
I
a
agree.
luxury pick.
I agree.
That's a sexy pick.
Yeah.
That's for a team that's like one explosive guy away
Yeah.
from success, from having like a legit shot. We're so far away from that. We have to start from the bottom.
Yep.
So it has to be O-line or D-line,
Yeah.
rush end or left tackle.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely spot on, man. Couldn't have said it better myself. That we don't have the luxury of picking a receiver in the first round. I don't think that's where we are right now. We got more pressing needs than wide receiver. We have a number one receiver. I truly believe that in Scary Terry, and so I don't think we're in the market for a receiver in the first round of the draft. But we'll see what happens. But that's where I feel we are from a roster standpoint. A bunch of glaring needs, and we'll see how the Redskins decide to fill some of those holes. Do they go out in free agency, try to fill a couple of those voids, or do they really save all of their resources for the draft? We'll see.
Right.
Hey, man, appreciate you chiming in, man. Great call.
Hey, definitely. I really appreciate you, Lou, man. You're doing it big, man. You really, setting the standard, man. Like, really, Redskins all day. You living the life and doing it for us out there. Hoping for a turnaround, man.
Yeah, man. We all are, man. I appreciate you, bro.
Hey, I appreciate you, too. Keep doing your thing, man.
Will do. So, that was a great call. The last two calls were excellent. But every call has been excellent tonight, really. Let me see. I saw Jacqueline Guerrero says, who do you want to be the next Redskins head coach? And she also says, what do you want in return for Trent? And I kind of answered that. I want a first round pick. And I got another call. I'm going to go ahead and take it. You're on live with your man, Louie T. Who am I speaking with?
What's going on, Lou? It's JP. How you doing?
What's going on, JP? You sound a little rough over there, man. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm literally just getting over a cold.
Okay. Hope you
I've
feel
had
better.
it since, I think, Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, you told me you weren't feeling well. I hope you feel better, man.
Oh, yeah, I am. So, thought I'd chime in about the Trent Williams and the Brown situation. Man, if we get this deal to go through, I'm very curious to see what kind of compensation we're going to get. I've had some people, when I saw the news break, I've had some people say Odell was involved. I've had people say Njoku and Hunt are involved. Some picks are probably involved. I've even heard a couple of people say that nobody's going to give up a first for Trent, considering his injury history and his health. But come on, you got to get at least one first round pick. It doesn't have to be two. It has to be at least one.
Well, you're not getting two for him. That's for sure. If you get a player, I don't think you're getting a first round pick. If they throw in a David Njoku in the deal, then it's probably like a third round pick or something like that. So if it's a player and a pick, it's not going to be a first round pick and a player. If it's just picks, then you could probably net yourself a first rounder. But if you're looking for a player involved in the deal, then you're not getting a first round pick. I equate it to the Alex Smith deal that we did with the Chiefs, where I think the Redskins would have much rather given up a second round pick by itself and gotten Alex Smith that way. And the Chiefs were like, nah, we want Kendall Fuller. And so the Redskins was like, okay, well, if we got to give up Kendall Fuller, then it's a 3, not a 2. And they were like, cool, we'll do that. So I think if the Redskins are looking for a player in this deal, it's not going to be Odell Beckham Jr. I can assure you of that. If they're looking for a player in this deal, and that guy is, because David Njoku makes a lot of sense. The Redskins are really without a tight end that they think can stretch the field vertically, and he kind of fits, that mold of a Jordan Reed type of guy in terms of athleticism. It wouldn't shock me if that was a guy that was included in the deal. He hasn't really been what they thought he was going to be as a first round pick out of Miami. I think they actually spent a second rounder on him. Might have been a late first. I think that was the draft where they had multiple first rounders, and he was one of the later ones. But either way, he hasn't really given them what they thought they were going to get, and it wouldn't shock me if they decided to move on from him to get Trent Williams. But if that were the case, then I think you're looking at Njoku and maybe a third at that point.
Right. potentially getting moved because he just isn't connecting with Mayfield in Cleveland, so that might play a role into it. But I don't know if it's true. Again, I don't know if it's true or not. But going back to Trent, I don't understand why people say that this guy is injured all the time. He's had some injuries, but he doesn't really miss a whole lot of games. I think he's only missed like a small handful of games or whatever, but he doesn't. The guy's not injury prone. He's probably the best left tackle in all of football, and the fact that he's had injury issues because he's getting older and he's starting to get up there in age. Yeah, but come on, you can't say the guy is injury prone all the time. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But I do like the fact that that we might get some compensation for him. But the problem is, Njoku is on IR and Kareem Hunt is 4 games, and has 4 games to go to serve suspension or whatever the suspension that he got for the thing that happened in Las Vegas with that woman or whatever. But anyway, that's beside the point. I want guys that are healthy, not the guys that are injured. I don't even know when these guys are going to come back. We don't even know if they're going to be the same. For all we know, the Browns could, if this deal goes through, the Browns could totally fleece us, and they end up turning out to be absolutely nothing. That's the only thing that scares me. But the picks, however, is what's most important because we might unload. There might be a big fire sale coming at some point. The problem is the Redskins are too stupid to hold on to players who are already past their prime and who are making. I just want to get this right. I want to get the right deal. I want at least a first for Trent. If it's not a first, if it's not a first, I don't care.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I am. If the conversation starts with the first round pick. And if the Redskins are interested in players, then that diminishes the value of the pick. And now you're talking second, third. But if you're just talking straight picks, which if I'm the Redskins, I'm really not interested in your players. I want draft capital. I want to go out and pick my own guys. I don't want your stuff that you have given up on and are willing to give away. I want my own opportunity to select guys in the draft. Give me the picks. And so if I'm the Redskins, I'm not looking at any of your players. I just want the first round pick. And if you're desperate enough, you'll give it up. If you're not,
I'm not sure. I just jumped on not too long ago. I'm not sure if you heard, but I heard the Buccaneers are shopping O.J. Howard. I heard Washington's interested because of the injuries to Davis and Reed, and Reed probably will never play again. I didn't get a chance to hear you talk about it, so I want to know how you feel. How would you feel about acquiring O.J. Howard? He's been okay for Tampa Bay, but his production has kind of fallen off a little bit. I just want to know how you feel.
He's an Alabama player, right?
Yep.
So,
player.
He's a Bama boy.
Any Alabama player we can get, I'll take it.
He's a Bama boy, so it makes sense. But to honestly though, it just depends on what the Bucs are asking for. You know what I mean? They spent the first round pick on O.J. Howard. I would assume that they want no less than a second for him. We don't have a second round pick in the 2020 draft. So again, I'm not giving up a first for O.J. Howard. I'm good. And if I'm the Bucs, I'm not taking anything less than a 2 for him. I just spent the first round pick on this kid, and he's very talented. And if you're thinking about moving on from him, you want to maximize the amount of value you get out of him. And I think you can get a 2 for O.J. Howard. I really do. At worst, a 3. I would be willing to part ways with a third round pick for him. Absolutely. I'd do it right now. But if you're talking about a 2, we don't have a 2. I would probably, again, because of the Redskins' track history with second round picks, because we've been so awful in the draft with second round picks, I would give up a second round pick for O.J. Howard. I would. But because we don't have a second round pick, I'm not trying to give away second rounders for the rest of eternity now. I mean, we didn't have one in last year's draft. We don't have one in this year's draft. I don't want to give up the one in 2021. You know what I mean? But I would be tempted if the Bucs were willing to take. And again, teams generally aren't willing. This isn't the NBA. I don't want your 2027 second round pick. I want a pick that I can make in the upcoming draft. So I don't think the Bucks are looking to, part ways or acquire a 2021 second round pick. And if I'm the Redskins, I'm not giving you a first round pick. So I would give up a second or a third for O.J. Howard. I would. I think he's worth it. I think he's really talented. I think he fits everything that we need. He can block. He can catch the football. And a fresh start probably wouldn't hurt. And he's got a bunch of his boys here that would make him feel right at home. I would have no problems going after O.J. Howard. But again, what's the compensation like? And what are the Bucks asking for? If they're asking for a 1, I'm out. Can't help you. Don't have a 1 to give you. You want a 2? I would do a 2. I just don't have one to give you. You want the 2021 2? Okay, it's yours. Here you go. If you want a 3, I'd do it right now. Not now, like right now. So again, what are the Bucks asking for? That's the question.
Yeah, right, absolutely. I would honestly, because here's the thing. If we do decide to give the Buccaneers this year's third round pick, we're not going to pick again until the 4th round. Because remember, we don't have a second round pick this year, and we don't have a second round pick next year. So that's going to hurt. That's going to kind of hurt us a little bit. But at the same time, I wouldn't have no problem giving up a 3 for O.J. Howard, but I don't want to let go of a first. Because remember, we're going to use that first round pick to take Chase Young out of Ohio State, a guy I know you've been and I have. You've been very high, and I know I've been high on as well. Is that that's another thing I wanted to ask you, Lou, is do you think we're going to be bad enough to pick Chase Young?
Sure. I mean, obviously, look, this is the thing. Because we're going to have a top 5 pick. I feel really good saying that right now. I don't think we're a good football team. But again, things could change. We're going to see. This week is key because if somehow miraculously we play San Francisco close or we beat them, it could change everything. And now all of a sudden you're not the worst team in football, or you're not one of the worst teams in football. But if we go out and we do what I expect us to do, which is get our asses handed to us and get drubbed, then you're probably staring at a top 5 pick, most likely top 4, because I don't know if we're going to be worse than Cincinnati. We're not going to be worse than Miami. And I think those are the 2 you got to worry about. I don't think that, because those 2 play each other as well. So somebody's going to win a game. Arizona is starting to get their act together. I think you can take them out of the equation. They're going to win more games. Kyler Murray's starting to figure it out. I know they just played 2 teams that allowed them to score a bunch of points and win, but I think they're starting to gain confidence out there. So I think you can remove Arizona from the conversation. The Jets got their quarterback back. They're not as bad as everybody thought. They just didn't have Sam Darnold. He's back now. They got Greg Williams calling that defense. They're going to win some football games. And oh, by the way, they play us. So that might be another win for them as well. So I think when you look at it, the only 2 teams that are going to be worse than the Redskins, and I think the Giants are going to win more games. I think they're going to win a couple more games. So when you look at it the way it's constructed right now, I think you're just looking at 2 teams. And Atlanta stinks. But their offense is still really good. They're going to win some games just off the strength of their offense. But I think when you look at it, it's just Cincinnati and Miami. So I think at worst, we're the 3rd pick in the draft. At that point, you got to ask yourself, Miami's taking a quarterback. So you don't worry about them. What is Cincinnati going to do? Do they believe in Andy Dalton? They got a first-year head coach. Does he believe enough in Andy Dalton that you don't take a quarterback at 2? Or do you look at, and they need edge rushing help. Carlos Dunlap isn't providing them with what he once was. And they don't have anybody off the edge. They could easily say, you know what? We're in Ohio. He's an Ohio kid. We know him. He's in our backyard. We'll take Chase Young. So that's a possibility. You just don't know. It's hard to say right now.
Right. I also I don't know if you know this about Chase Young. The kid's actually a Virginia kid. I think he's from Maryland. He's a native kid. I think he grew. I believe he grew up a Redskins fan.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not 100%, but I believe so.
Yeah.
So it would be an incredible honor to have that kid go back to his hometown and play for the team that he grew up rooting for. But the problem is, are we going to have second pick because, like you said, Cincinnati is going to be really bad. They're going to probably have a top. They're going to have a top 3 pick, and also they're going to need wide receiver help considering that AJ Green. I'm not completely ruling this out because I know how AJ Green is very loyal to Cincinnati. But if he decides to walk or they decide to trade him, could they potentially take Jerry Jeudy at number 2 overall?
It's possible.
That's another factor I think you can play in. But
Yeah.
if they're serious about if they don't, let's say here's what I think. The only way they're not going to take Chase Young is if they either let Dalton go after the season and they draft maybe Herbert, right? Because Tua is going number 1. That's a fact. Tua is going number 1 overall to the Dolphins. Or they could take Jerry Jeudy if they decide to let AJ Green go and they don't really they don't really believe a whole. I'm sure they do believe in Tyler Boyd, but come on, Jerry Jeudy, AJ Green, who wouldn't want those? That would be one of the best wide receiver tandems in the league.
Yeah.
Considering that one's a veteran and the other guy's just on a rookie deal. They can do some things.
Yeah.
But the problem is Cincinnati, I don't think Cincinnati is going to compete for a while. So that's another thing. So
Yeah. I don't want to turn this into a draft show because we got all season to do that. We got all off season to do that. Bottom line is, I don't know what the Redskins season is going to become of this Redskins season. We still got a bunch of games to go. We'll see what happens. We'll see where the Redskins end up. I don't like to play the guessing game as to where we're going to end up. We could end up winning 5 or 6 games. You win that many games, you're not going to have a top 3 pick. So we'll see what happens. It's a lot of time to figure that kind of stuff out. But in any event, AJP, man, appreciate you calling in. Get better, man. Have a good one.
I will. Thank you very much. By the way, one last thing. I'm going to do everything in my power to get on that Rep Your Squad show.
Yep.
I have missed it the last 2 weeks. I have tried in vain to call in, and I always miss it because I'm always getting off work at 8 o'clock. So I'm going to do everything in my power to get on next week.
Hey, man, sounds good. Look forward to it.
All right. Thank you, Lou. Have a good night.
Likewise. So, Sully115 says, the funny thing is the O-line has improved with Bill Callahan. Less penalties, less quarterback pressure. Now imagine Alex Smith under center now. That could really happen, man. That's a realistic possibility. Yikes. Got a call. I'm going to go ahead and take it. You're on live with your man Louie T. Who am I speaking with?
Hey man, it's KC.
What's going on, Casey?
I'm doing alright. I just wanted to talk about. So, I see this report, and it says Bruce Allen told Trent Williams he will have to sit out for the year. Redskins will try to trade him in January.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if they're going to trade him in the mid-season trade deadline,
Mm-hmm.
or if they're going to wait till January to trade him. To be honest, I think it would be smarter for them to trade him in January because maybe more teams are looking for left tackle help. Maybe there are more injuries at the left tackle position. Who knows? But that's the report that I saw.
Okay, so let's take that piece by piece. So the first thing you said is Bruce Allen said he wasn't going to trade him. That's what Bruce said. I'm taking Bruce.
Said during the press.
Yeah, Bruce. I take him at face value. Like Bruce is stubborn, and he had to sit down. I talked about the sit down he had with Sherry Burris over at Channel 5, and he told her Trent's playing for us this year. Like Bruce is stubborn, and when he digs his feet in, he generally doesn't budge. And that's, again, part of the reason why this organization will never maximize their potential, because you have guys like Bruce Allen holding us back because he has an agenda. He wants to be right. He's not doing this for the good of the team. He's doing it because he wants to be right. He wants to go to Dan and say, see, I told you so. And it doesn't make any sense. And honestly, it's less value to me in January just because this is how teams will view it then when the season's over. They're going to say, Well, why would we trade you a first round pick when we can draft our own first round tackle?
And that's what I was wondering.
And it's not going to cost us as much. You know, and he's not going to be 32 years old. He's going to be 23 years old or 22 years old.
And
Like,
it's not like this draft class has like.
it's not a great tackle draft class, but again, you don't have to draft a guy in the first round to get a first round caliber tackle. You know what I mean? So the draft is always a crapshoot. You know, we see guys that go in the second round, third round of the draft turn out to be excellent tackles in this league all the time. You know, so teams are going to be less likely to part ways with a first round pick because the element of desperation is removed from the situation when you get to January. The season's over. We're not desperate anymore. Now we get to hit the reset button and figure out what's the best way to go about fixing a hole at left tackle. Here, as we sit in week number 7, going into week 7, you're desperate. You're 2-4. You're 3-3. You know, you feel like you're right there. And a player the caliber of a Trent Williams could potentially push you over the top and take you to that next level and give you a chance to compete and maybe do something. And so the desperation is there. So to me, there will be no greater time to trade him than right now because teams are in that mode of we can win and we can win now. Whereas in January, that's removed from the equation and now teams are more level-headed. They're not thinking. A wise man once told me that one of the best businesses to be in, he said, I'll always be in the funeral business and I'll always be in the wedding business because people make irrational decisions when it comes to funerals because they're distraught and they're laying a family member, a loved member of their family to rest, and they're emotional and they're likely to do something foolish. And I want to be the one to take advantage of that. That's what this guy said. He also said, same thing with getting married. You're happy, you're in love, and you're likely to do something foolish in terms of how much you spend on a wedding ring. And I want to be the one to take advantage of that. The Redskins are in that kind of position right now. The Browns are desperate. And you want to be able to take advantage of that situation. You wait till January, there's no longer that sense of desperation. And that's all I'm saying.
But my thing is, if given the opportunity, do we draft a guy like Andrew Thomas over a guy like Chase Young? Because I see a lot of promise in Andrew Thomas. I see he's an incredible run blocker in Georgia. He's my favorite tackle coming out in this century. Or not century, in this decade, my bad. But
so, I mean,
do I see him trumping a guy like Chase Young after the combine?
It's going to be interesting. It's hard to say right now, but this is the thing you can never do. You can never pass on a potential game-changing edge rusher.
Right.
You can find offensive linemen, and I don't like to dismiss the position because if it were easy to find left tackles, everyone would have one. But at the same time, you can count on probably one hand, maybe two max, how many elite pass rushers we have in this league. We don't have many. So if you have a chance to get one, because everyone's got a starting left tackle, not everyone has a good starting left tackle, but everybody's got a starting left tackle. And of the starting left tackles, probably at least half the league has a quality left tackle starting. You don't have half the league with quality edge rushers. Those are hard to come by. So if you can get one at the top of the draft, it's probably the way you probably want to side with. But again, if you value the left tackle position and this guy higher than you do with Chase Young, then you pull the trigger on him. But my thing is, I've been saying the same thing for the last 7 years, so you know where I stand. I want the edge rusher. I want a game-changing. I want a guy that can change the game. I want a guy that can get after Carson Wentz. I want a guy that can get after Dak Prescott. I want a guy that can get after Daniel Jones for the next decade. We got all these young quarterbacks in the division that aren't going anywhere. We need to get after their asses. So that's That's where I am in my thought process.
Right, because when we drafted Montez Sweat at, what was it, number 21?
Mhm.
I didn't like him coming out of Mississippi State because, yeah, he's athletic, yeah, he's big, yeah, he's fast, but he doesn't have a pass rush plan.
He doesn't.
When you see him rush, he does not have, he
At all.
doesn't use his hands.
Yep.
And
No,
you have
he
to
doesn't.
coach him up on that in the offseason.
Right. He's raw. And I said that coming out, that's why I prefer Brian Burns. I said it then. I'm saying it now. Brian Burns already has 4.5 sacks on the season. I prefer Brian Burns. He actually looked like an NFL pass rusher. And I thought we missed the boat there, but Montez Sweat is here. He's athletically gifted. He's long. He's got everything you're looking for. They've got to coach him up. It's as simple as that. They've got to teach him technique. They've got to teach him how to use his hands. They've got to teach him, all right, you got a fastball. You've got speed, all right? Threaten the tackle with speed. Get him to open up, and then you got to learn how to get inside. Spin move. Quick outside, back inside. Something. You've got to come with some kind of off speed to the fastball. Right now, it's just straight fastball and bull rush. That's not going to
He
get it done.
doesn't have a problem getting low and getting past it, getting to the quarterback, making that quick bend after you beat the tackle. He just needs to refine his game a little more, and I think he does, and he can maximize his potential as an edge rusher on this team.
Yep. You know what's better than one? Two.
Yeah, of course.
Two. Absolutely, bro. Absolutely.
Another question I have.
Sure.
Do you foresee Eric Flowers staying with this team as the starting left guard?
I do. I mean, he loves it here, and we were wrong. You know, we were wrong about him. We crucified him, killed him. I mean, we were like, oh my God, we can't believe this guy made the final 53-man roster. He's gonna get our quarterback killed. We were wrong, and I'm going to make sure that I continuously apologize to this man and make sure that we continue to say that we were wrong, because we were wrong. We were so wrong on this guy. And not only has he been serviceable, he's actually been good at times. Really good. Like, I know it was the Dolphins, okay? But you still got to go out and dominate. And he dominated this week. He was really good this week. Some of the biggest runs that we had, he was the guy that had the kick out block. I think he's only going to get better. Remember, he's just starting out as a guard.
And he really enjoys it. I'm
He
very happy for him.
still hasn't maximized his full potential at the guard position. So I think if he continues on the track that he's on, not only will he be back, but I think he could be a guy that could be a really good part of this offensive line for years to come.
And as for guys like Casanova McKenzie and the edge rushers, what do you foresee for them in the future? Do you think that they have
It's
that
interesting.
he has a spot on this roster?
It's
He's
interesting
been
because
injured.
they cut him.
He's been in the game.
You remember? You know they cut him, and
Oh, they cut him?
they cut Casanova McKenzie. They brought him back onto the practice squad. So they like what they've seen from Noah Spence. So they kept Spence on, and they cut Casanova McKenzie. They brought him back onto the practice squad. So this roster is really fluid right now. I mean, guys are coming, guys are going. You get injured, you get cut, you brought back to the practice squad. I mean, we've been doing this song and dance with the musical chairs since the season started. So it's really hard to say what's going to happen. But, I mean, guys like Casanova McKenzie, Noah Spence, you know, you throw them in the mix, you see what you get. And I like those guys, but I don't think either of them are elite. You know, you want game changers, and I think you're going to have to try to invest in the draft to get one of those types of guys.
And I got one last question. Did anything ever come of the Brandon Sheriff thing? Like, I heard that they offered him like $13 million, but nothing ever came of it.
Right. No. And here's the thing. If you want Brandon Sheriff to sign on the dotted line, you got to make him the highest paid guard in the league. Are the Redskins prepared to do that? I don't think so. And you know how Bruce Allen is. And I think what's going to end up happening, because we're so dumb, we're going to end up franchise tagging him. paying this guy every bit of, I think 12, $13 million is what the franchise number is for the guard position. And then, which is stupid because you could just increase that by $2 million and get him long term, for the next 5 years. But we're going to be dumb. We're going to franchise tag him. We're not going to work out a deal long term. And he's going to leave after a year. And we're going to be doing this whole same song and dance all over again. So, in order to get him to sign, the last big guard deal that went out was the Martin of the Cowboys. He got a deal, I think, upwards of like $85 million. So naturally, to get Brandon Sheriff to sign on the dotted line, you're probably looking at 5 years, $88 million, or 5 years, $90 million, something like that. And load up the deal with guarantees and bonuses and keep it moving. But if you're not gonna make this guy the highest paid guard, guess what? Somebody else will.
Does any of that go down because of how he's been injured?
No, that doesn't change this guy's value. Again, this is the thing you have to understand. If you don't want to pay me, somebody else will. I always tell you, there's always someone else eyeballing your stuff. So, we didn't think, we love Jamison Crowder, but who wants Jamison Crowder? Well, the Jets wanted Jamison, and they wanted him bad. That was a lot of money they gave him. There's always somebody looking at. We thought, who's gonna want our guys? No one's gonna want Ryan Grant. Shit, Ryan Grant had a deal with the Ravens. They pulled the deal late, but that was some good money he was about to get. He got a deal with the Colts. Now he's with the Raiders. There's always somebody out there that's looking at your stuff, man. You may think, hey, this is some quality stuff. Nobody else wants our stuff, though. We should be able to get them back at a discounted rate. No, all right? There's somebody out there that's looking at your stuff and waiting for you to pass it up so they can swoop in and get it. You don't want to pay Brandon Sheriff? That's fine. Somebody else will. So either you pony up or Sheriff will be playing for somebody else. And that'll be yet another top draft pick that the Redskins spent that's no longer here.
Another McLuhan draft pick.
Exactly. Which is another reason why I think Bruce doesn't want to pay him the money that he's worth, is because Bruce wants to wipe his hands clean of pretty much anything to do with Scott McLuhan. And I think, honestly, Sheriff is the last piece. I don't think there's anybody else left. I think Sheriff is it. It's Sheriff and Jamison Crowder really that was left. And I'm trying to think.
Pretty much it.
I think that was it. So, yeah. Bruce is petty enough.
Well, it's been really nice talking to you.
Yep.
I really enjoyed the channel. I really enjoyed the direction that the channel's going in right now.
Yep.
You're like one of my favorite YouTubers, man. So
Appreciate that,
appreciate
Casey,
you
man.
coming down to talk to me or something like that.
Hey, appreciate that, Casey, man.
Yeah,
You have a good one, bro. So, yeah, man, it's really, really, really interesting. So, Farrah Cody says, you think Sherman can cover Terry? I don't know if he can cover Terry or not, but he damn sure isn't going to shy away from him. And they may roll over a safety to help. So, we'll see what happens. You're on live with your man, Louie T. Who am I speaking with?
Louie T, it's your boy BFG.
What's going on, BFG? Long time no hear from, man.
Man, I've been out there earning that paper, man. I have been keeping up on the videos and keeping track here for the last couple of months. But every once in a while, I catch your live show.
Hey, I saw you out there in a hotel doing a video. I said, look, at BFG, getting it in when he can, man. I love it, man.
When he can.
Hey, I love it, man. Good to hear from you, man.
You too, man. I find it interesting that I'm finding it harder and harder to talk about this damn football team, and you've gone live every single night. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you find the subject matter without ripping out all your hair.
Hey, look, man, they give me something every single night. When I first launched this idea and this concept, I was like, man, it's gonna be tough, I think, at certain points to have content, but between the press conferences that you get after practice on Wednesday and Thursday, and the constant conversation surrounding this team, whether it's Haskins related or Trent Williams related or whatever the case may be. Bruce Allen, I could literally do a show on Bruce Allen every day and people would be like enamored because everybody wants Bruce Allen gone. So
Yeah.
it's always something to talk about with this team, which makes it so much easier to do things on it because, it's something always. Usually it's nothing positive, but, we've gotten kind of used to that now. So.
And I'm glad you segued into Bruce Allen because I think almost every single Redskin fan has an opinion on Bruce Allen. But I'll tell you the thing about me and my personal association with Bruce Allen from a Redskins fan perspective. I kind of liken it to the Wizard of Oz. I think that this image of this individual who helps run this football team is the red herring. I think that he presents himself as though he's in charge of a lot more than what he really is. At the end of the day, you roll back that curtain and it's that short, tiny little dude that's pushing all the buttons and Dan Snyder. That's the person that I've always tried to throw my focus on in all of my videos. I think personally that Bruce Allen is a yes man. I think he is a professional yes man. I think that this issue with Trent Williams is Dan's pride that is basically telling Trent, if you ain't going to play for me, you ain't going to play all season. That's no game checks all season. And I think it was you, correct me if I'm wrong, weren't you the one on Twitter that posted the audio about the individual that had the run-in with Dan Snyder?
Yeah, that was me.
Yes. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, go on to Louie T's Twitter. I found that audio clip to be extremely insightful. It's not very long, it's
Right.
really short, but if you take a look at the meaning behind the meeting, that will tell you the type of man who runs this football team. It's the type of individual that demands to be addressed a certain way.
Right.
He demands to be looked at a certain way. And I'm sorry, Dan, you've got a losing record. You suck as an owner. You're horrible. And if we think that getting Bruce Allen out of this organization is going to solve all of our problems, we have problems before Bruce Allen.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the next GM coming in here. How much of a forehead shiner is this guy going to be? How much of a yes man is this guy going to be? This last press conference that we had with Bruce Allen, what was it, 15 minutes long? This guy is losing season ticket holders by the handful. And I don't know if he's just got too much time on his hands to talk on the phone to try to get these guys back, or if they're really not interested in addressing the fan base. Because if we take a look at that in the stands, when we played New England,
Yeah.
that was a home game for New England, man.
Yeah,
And that's all. I feel sorry for the next head coach who comes in here because he's going to be constantly playing on the road.
Yeah.
That game, or any game that you have this season, or even last season at Redskins Park, those are away games, man.
Yeah.
They pretty much are.
No, you're absolutely spot on. I'm going to be really interested to see how this 49ers game goes because they're from the West Coast. And every team on the East Coast or in the Midwest, easier to get to, more accessible. The Bears, the Cowboys, the Patriots, those have been the home games thus far. A lot easier for those teams' fans to travel to get to Washington to watch the game. Now you got the 49ers coming in. Obviously, they're going to have some fans spread out all around, and those guys will be able to get in. But I don't know if it'll be enough of them to take over the stadium. If there's enough 49ers fans to take over the stadium, obviously there aren't going to be many Redskins fans there to begin with. So even if it's 30% 49ers fans, that may be enough to take over the stands. But it'll be interesting to see if they are able to come in and take over the stadium. If they're able to do that, yeah, it's. Honestly, you're right. The home field thing, it's a road game essentially from here on out until things change, and I don't know when that's going to be. To be honest with
I'll
you.
tell you what, man, the only thing you got to do to turn this whole franchise around, start bringing up W's in our column, is to run the ball every single play, man. Run it. I can't even say that without laughing. But, that's probably one of the frustrating parts about this, and this has been a worry of mine for probably the last 10 years, is that I think that there's so many of us in fans that are used to the dysfunction
Yeah.
that the next logical step is the most dysfunctional do is follow this team, you're kind of handicapped, man. I mean, it kind of sucks that that's the way that it is, but we are the playbook of dysfunction.
Without a doubt, man. We wrote it, we execute it, and we try to show others how to do it, and they're like, nah, we're good, thanks. But it's what we do, man. And it's so tough because as fans, we just want better, man. We just want better, but we're not in control. And I don't know how you get better because, as you mentioned, it starts at the very top with Dan Snyder. And I was talking about this last week. He's 54 years old. And if he stays healthy, he's going to be the owner of this team for at least the next 30 years.
He looks like a 10-year-old boy in a suit, man. He's going to live forever.
He's not going anywhere. So, bottom line is, this ineptitude, there is no end in sight. So, we've got to be lucky. We've got to be extremely lucky. You either need a franchise-changing player, and it's got to be a quarterback, or you need the combination of a head coach and a franchise-changing quarterback, or you need a head coach that changes the entire foundation of this football team, which I still think is impossible because of the guys who will be over top of it. So
Yeah, I agree, and I said it a couple of years ago. One of the most optimistic things that I saw, the last piece of optimism that BFG had about this football team was when we had a general manager that was a player's general manager, somebody who could evaluate talent. We had a head coach that was in here that looked like he was going to be in here for a couple more years, and we had what was seemingly a franchise quarterback. That was a great start for this organization. And Bruce Allen / Daniel Snyder had imagined, and they literally were able to take a wrecking ball to that whole thing.
yeah, you're not lying, man. It's amazing how
But
far we've
besides
come.
besides that, talking about some of the players on this personnel, the one thing I've got my eye on right now with this season, I've got my eye keenly on Montez Sweat, and I know we've been talking about him on your show here tonight. And the one thing that I'll tell you, I like the kid. I like what it is that he has. You were absolutely 100% right. You said in the beginning that this kid is raw. I'm only worried about our ability to develop him.
Right.
I was kind of questioning what the college he played for, what their inability was at teaching this guy some of the basic techniques that a pass rusher needs to get to the quarterback at the collegiate level. I've only seen really one move out of this guy, and that is it. If we are able to utilize some technique, he's got fairly decent drive. I could probably use to see a little bit more drive on inconsistency out of him, and that's we've got that on the other side with our pass rusher. But I mean, if he had a little bit more ability to utilize his hands and his movement, I mean, you were right with the caller before. This guy could end up being one of the better pass rushers in the league. I just got to question whether we're able to actually give this kid the tools that he needs to progress, in the NFL.
Absolutely, man. I could see him having a mean pole vault. I mean, the long arm of the law, just one arm, and he's got such long arms. Just take that and stick it in the chest of that tackle, get him on skates and just drive him back. Like Khalil Mack has perfected that move, where he just takes one arm and pass rushers have to learn this, and I don't know if these coaches are teaching them this, but one arm is always better than two because it's longer. Right? You can stretch one arm further. If you want to try it at home, go right ahead. You can stretch one arm longer than you can two at the same time. So you take that one long arm and you stick it in the chest of that tackle, and that's where the speed comes into play. Because you get them looking for the speed, and then all of a sudden, boom, right into the chest comes that long arm of the law, and you drive him right into the quarterback. Someone's got to teach him that move. His arms are way too long, and he's too aggressive of a pass rusher to not have that in the arsenal. So to me, that's a starting point right there. You use the speed, and then off of that, long arm of the law. And then off of that, you go hard outside, back inside. I mean, there's so many things you can teach this kid. Then you start using the hands. But again, I don't know if we have the guys in-house to teach him the things that he needs to be taught to be able to maximize his skill set.
And that's what's frustrating about see the potential. You see where it is that this kid can take you, and it's just it drives me nuts. It drives me absolutely crazy, man, to know that this guy has the potential. If he just do a couple more things, added a couple more tools to his toolbox, he could be a phenomenal rusher.
Right.
Because I see it during the game. It's like, man, we could have done this on that move. We would have got to that quarterback so much quicker. It's frustrating to see.
Yep. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Hey,
Hey,
BFG.
man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me on. Keep up, keep doing what you're doing. Like you said, there's not that much that the Redskins are giving us a lot of material to talk about.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you're capitalizing on that and getting us out here to be able to vent on your show.
Absolutely, man. It was great to hear your voice, man. Take it easy.
Talk to you later.
Don't be a stranger, man.
All right.
All right. Oh man, BFG. I think that's the perfect way to end the show in terms of the calls. I'll take a couple of comments and then we'll get out of here. Farrah Cody says Rex Ryan will eat Bruce Allen alive. LOL. I don't want Rex Ryan doing anything other than coaching the linebackers. That's it. Let's see. Let's run through here and grab a couple more comments. Sully115 says, I know it's Bill Callahan's first game versus the Miami Dolphins, but if the Redskins offensive line can protect their quarterback, make lanes for AP from the 49ers defensive front, that would be impressive. Yes, it would. And I'm actually anxious to see what we do this week up front, because if there's a repeat of what we did last week, then there's a little bit of credence to that. If not, then we go back to what we were prior to the Dolphins game, and I think that's what most of us expect to happen, but we'll see if that actually, in fact, is the case or not. Scrolling through the rest of these comments. Let's see if there's anything else addressed to me. And it doesn't look like it. Sully115 says, cut Colt McCoy already from the roster, put him on the coaching staff or something. AP proved he still has a lot left in the tank. What has Colt McCoy proven? One game in Dallas, come on. Well, they're not going to get rid of Colt because Case Keenum is dealing with an injury, or has been this season. You just want to have another veteran on the roster, so they're not going to get rid of Colt McCoy. And someone would sign Colt McCoy, believe it or not. With all the injuries around the league, Colt McCoy would get work elsewhere. So they're not going to cut him. And moving right along. See if there's anything else before we get out of here. This has been a really good and long show. Chuck Sharp says, you see the Old Spice commercial with Von Miller and Sweat? Yes. I said, though, his name made it so easy for him to get an endorsement deal. He hasn't done a damn thing in this league, but his name is Montez Sweat. And Old Spice said, this is too good to pass up. So, yes, I said, hey, look, man, secure the bag. He did that. I'm happy for him. Go get your bread, man. Go get it while it's there to be got. And with that, Gregory Lightbody says, what do you think of the FB signing? I don't know who that is, so I can't help you there. In any event, that's going to do it for this edition of the Redskins Nightly News. I thank you guys for joining me. Really appreciate all the time you guys have invested in the program and calling in and voicing your opinions. That's what this platform is for us to have a place to come together, talk about the Redskins, and see if we can't continue to get through this together. It's not always easy. They don't give us a lot to cheer about and be optimistic about, but we got to hang in there, because as a caller said last week, it's going to make it that much sweeter when we finally, whenever the hell it happens, it could be 25 years from now, but whenever the hell it is we break through and we finally have some success, it's going to make it that much sweeter when it does finally happen. So with that being said, I thank you guys for joining me. Remember, we got skin in the game. Why? Because we're Skins fans for life. Until next time, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. This has been the Redskins Nightly News. Have a good one.